Throughout the years, the issue on interracial marriage and dating has been ongoing. Over the 1800s, this pattern continued between multiple races of people, and some were even caught and punished for it. By the early 20th century, it was still frowned upon and in some cases illegal. Interracial marriage continued to be illegal in some states throughout the 1950s and 1960s. This, however, changed with the Loving family, who were banned from the state of Virginia based on their racial differences. The Loving case was nationwide news and had put the issue of interracial marriage in the spotlight, forever changing the outlook on interracial marriage and dating. Essentially, the discrimination on interracial marriage isn't talked about much in today's world. However, it's still there. So to answer some of the questions on whether it's still an issue, I went ahead and interviewed an interracial couple to see what they had to say about their personal experiences and their thoughts on the matter. Here's what they had to say to a small list of straightforward questions. Growing up, was interracial dating or marriage ever brought up or frowned upon?
Not frowned upon for me, but for me it was brought up.
It was brought up for me too.
Yeah, where my mom always said like she thought I was going to marry outside my race, and I think it was just because of the neighborhood I grew up in and the kids I was around, and she just assumed that. But it wasn't ever like a bad thing.
Yeah, for me, no, there's no frowning upon whatsoever. It's just my mom, because for about half my life it was just my mom that was there, and she was very whatever I found, she wanted me just to be honest and stick with whoever it was. And then the question of just dating outside the race, it was like that was kind of brought up more towards my stepfather, and then we kind of talked about it, and then he was agreeable. He just brought up some questions and asked me some differences, but both my parents were fine with it.
How did your families react to you dating and your marriage? Was anyone against it based on your race?
I would say dating, like at first, my family thought I was going to bring home like someone of my race, and so when I pointed to James, they kind of were like, "Oh, hey," and then kind of gave him a hard time. And he had an inappropriate sticker on his car, which was a joke, but not my parents, but my family didn't really take it like that.
Oh, yeah.
It just said something like, "Welcome to America, now speak English," was a bumper sticker on his car that like someone gave to him, and we thought it was like
18.
funny. We were young,
We were 18 at the time.
but one of my aunts that is actually ex-aunt now, that's not Hispanic, was actually the one that said that it was super inappropriate, and then he took it down. But in the beginning, they were all calling him güerito, which means like white boy, and it wasn't like in a bad way. That's just like.
But I mean, there's just, yeah. I mean, my mom was very for whoever you find, stick with it, just be honest.
And I think there was also like Hispanic jokes that now, knowing his family, are funny, but when we first started dating it was kind of awkward and almost felt offensive, but they weren't supposed to be, and I just maybe took them the wrong way. But it had to do with getting to know each other's families, and the way we joked. The same way my family would call him white boy, they weren't saying it in a bad way, it was just a nickname.
Yeah, so at first it was just because you didn't understand the whole culture and how people react and what they say and their mannerisms. You can take it offensively if you don't understand it.
Have you ever experienced any discrimination when it comes to you both being of a different race? If so, how did you react to it?
I don't think so, not for me.
Yeah. Well,
I think
for you, for sure, yeah. And then on my side as well. There's been times here in the States and when we went to Mexico.
Give me an example, because I honestly am blanking.
Remember when we went to Morgan's wedding? And
Oh, yeah. Okay.
She asked if you were from here.
Yeah, that's true. We went to a wedding, and it was a very cookie cutter wedding, and I was definitely like, I stuck out like a sore
She's
thumb.
only Hispanic in the group.
And she came up to me and very slowly said, "Are you from here?" And I'm like, Like, it just baffled me.
Took
And
me by shock.
yeah, and I'm like, yes. Oh, okay, where? And I said, here from Reno. And she like paused, waiting for more. And I'm like, but my family is from Mexico City.
So that's the answer she was looking for.
Yeah, like it just, that's right. I totally forgot about that, but it was a little bit awkward. We all laughed about it in the car afterwards, because usually I would have had something smart to say, but in that moment, I think I was just a little bit shocked.
Yeah.
And then you
For
said
me,
Mexico.
Well, in Mexico, because I mean, it's mostly Hispanics, so
Well,
it's someone
everybody's,
from the States.
yeah. They
Like,
just stare.
They stare at you, and like they speak in Spanish, and if you hear, I mean, my Spanish is pretty fluent now. Back then, like I was hearing words left and right that I didn't know, so I mean, I was taking it, which probably shouldn't have, but I was taking it more offensively than I should not have. But I was very defensive.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't know it. So I mean, but I would have her translate, and she would say, "Okay, this is what this means."
Yeah, and if anything, was more of just like ooh, there's a white guy here in Mexico. Like,
But the way they were saying it, remember, I was getting mad because
Yeah.
I kept saying "güero," and I was
yeah, or like, but even Hispanics that are light skinned, like I'm more on like the lighter skin of a Hispanic, they would refer to me as güera, which is like white girl, but they don't literally mean that. They just mean that because of my skin tone. And so I had explained to him, like, they're not trying to offend you. But I do remember you getting kind of upset.
Was it a culture shock meeting each other's families? Were they that very different or not very different from each other?
yeah.
Do you
They
wanna go
were like,
first?
my family's on this side of the spectrum, her family's on this side of the spectrum.
It's still hard.
My dad was raised in very German-like culture, which is very,
Dry.
you could say that. The culture's very dry. There's not a lot of touching. There's not a lot of like, kids are to be seen. They're not heard or like mentioned at all. So it was very German strong culture. And then when I met her family, it's complete opposite, where everyone was in the conversation, children included, teenagers also. Everyone would like have a voice, and you could say jokes that were kind of inappropriate, and people would not get offended. You could say pretty much whatever you wanted, and there was a lot of touching, and then the whole kissing thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kissing each other when you
That was the
see
big
each
one.
other. He got to my house, and
This is the first
that's
time,
the
right?
first time ever. And of course, all my aunts are like, "Hey, nice to meet you," and give him a kiss on the cheek. And he's looking at me like, "Why the hell are your aunts kissing me?"
Yeah, I was like, I'm barely 18 and you're kissing me. Like, what is going on?
So just having to explain, like, oh, that's how we say hi, that's how we say goodbye. My family's extremely close. His family parties have 6 people around the table, and versus mine have like
20 to 30.
20 to 30 is a small get together. And so that was like another thing. And then for me, going to his house at first, we went for dinner, and I expected everyone to sit around the table, and some of his family was in front of the TV using TV trays, and some were eating in the kitchen, and some were, but that was just like the norm. And I was like, why are we talking to each other? It was really dry. But now I feel like your mom kisses me on the cheek when she sees me. Like she's gotten
She
used to
adopted
it.
She likes that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, why be boring? Marry a Latina.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So in conclusion, it is easy to tell that the issue of discrimination on interracial marriage is still around, but still unheard of in most places throughout the US. However, it isn't that big of an issue in today's world and is rarely brought up.